1524, and we can fit in everybody who's traveled here today to offer testimony there. So with that, I'm going to open a public hearing on Senate Bill 1586 and welcome Sarah Setimo on behalf of Senator Golden and Senator Pham, if she's here, and then actually, Sarah, can we start with Senator Solomon? Welcome, Senator.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Janine Solomon. I'm the state senator, proudly representing Senate District 15, Forest Grove, Cornelius, Hillsborough, Rock Creek area of Western Washington County. Appreciate the opportunity to continue hearing from the public on Senate Bill 1586. I will just say briefly, because I know that some of the folks that are going to come up and talk to you are going to kind of walk you through some of the amendments. I just really want to talk about one of the amendments that is a considerable shift from the base bill, and that I want to just put an emphasis on the -4, and it is really the land component of this. So I just really want to kind of reiterate with folks on when we're looking at the need for us to be in a competitive, to work competitively for this industry. We're, looking at other states that are wanting to expand their semiconductor and advanced manufacturing. We know the three components are really important. We need to keep what we have. We need to grow what we have, and we need to figure out how we incentivize new opportunity to come to Oregon. That's really been some guiding principles on this. On the land component, and we'll have some folks come up and talk about some of the other additional amendments that regarding the incentives. But on the land, I just want to be really specific to folks. So this land that we're talking about is not inside the land use system currently. It sits outside of the land use system. And it is that way because of the grand bargain that happened in 2014. So this land, the area in the -4, it takes the 373 acres, which is contiguous with already existing UGB land, having a border of the highway, having a western border of another road, and the south and the east of this land is already within the urban growth boundary. So it would take that land, move that into the UGB, and the 1,400 acres of this area, again, that's not in the land use system, that would move back to Metro. And so I just, and go through their land use system. I just also want to reiterate to folks, because some folks have said that, just allow it to stay in rural reserves. It's not currently. It is outside of the land use system. And also that folks have said it's important that, that we look at the industry in this area and the cluster, and that's why the focus of this area is so incredibly important, because of the industry that surrounds this area. And so just really wanting to reiterate with folks that it does sit outside of the land use system. And then I just really want to touch on the public process. So while we have our public hearings on bills, just as we do with all bills that come through before us through our committees, this will also, anytime there is a shift in land use or different use, it goes through Planning Commission. It will go through city public hearings as well as Metro then has their process as well. So the public continues to be involved as this area looks to be evolved as it moves forward. And the 1,400 acres could be many years, could be 50 years before there is any change to that use. So I just really wanted to put that out and put that on the record for folks because there does seem to be some questions and perhaps some misinformation around that. So I really wanted to be very specific. But that's really what I wanted to offer for you today. Appreciate the extra time. And then we have folks that are going to come and talk about some of the additional, this I'm very speaking to, in the -4, and then they'll come up and they'll talk about the very technical fixes that were done in the additional. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. We appreciate it. Senator Patterson.
Thank you, Chair Broadman.
Thanks, Senator Solomon.
Yeah.
I know you've made a lot of adjustments to this bill. I really appreciate it. You had mentioned this is important for competitiveness for this industry.
Yeah.
Could you please say which this industry is,
Oh.
just for the record again?
Thank you, Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, and Senator Patterson. So this particular area is, so when we talk about the semiconductor, the silicon forest in this area, it is very, there's semiconductor and advanced manufacturing. There is biotech. There could be energy production like a biochar, it could be something that is very related to the area. So that's why when you look about, I guess I should say this industry very specifically, there are opportunities that still fit very much well within this scope of the businesses that are in the area. This could be, they did say that when looking and doing analysis on the entire 1,700 acres, they did say that it could potentially, the return on investment in the next 20 years, have upwards of $13 billion back to the state of Oregon. And so I just wanted to reiterate that it is important to the area, the land, and as well as and when we talk about being competitive, we are now competing against other states around Boise, Idaho, North Carolina, Arizona, Texas. And we just really want to make sure that, again, the first premise is keep what we have, grow very modestly what is here, and then also incentivize and hopefully attract other business that could provide the resources needed, especially as we're moving forward and looking at the considerable devastating economy that folks are feeling. And this, just to be really clear, isn't just about this big industry. The ripple effect to our main streets is real. When the economy is not strong, it doesn't just hit those large employers, it ripples all the way down to very small industry and industries that aren't directly impacted and have a connection with semiconductor or advanced manufacturing. I talk to people in Hillsborough, in Forest Grove, all the time about their troubling concerns about our economy.
Follow-up,
Please.
thank you so much.
Yeah.
My question is, recently the semiconductor industry laid off 11,000 people. Has there been any indication on what the reason was for that layoff? Was it lack of land that they laid off 11,000 people, or no other supporting industries?
Yeah,
Is there some data on that?
Yeah, thank you. Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, and Senator Patterson. We have seen job loss in Oregon of about 25,000 jobs, period. The economy and the changes are shifting. And as I said, our manufacturing jobs have suffered from that. But I just want to reiterate, it's not that we have historically, when I was co-chair of the semiconductor committee with now Congresswoman Bynum, we were really still on this global side of competitiveness. And the reason we had the Federal CHIPS Act and the Oregon CHIPS Act is because we rely very heavily on chips for everything we do. And we need to figure out how we bring that back home, bring that to the United States to really rely on us versus a foreign country. With that. And so there has been a shift in the change in jobs, but I want to just reiterate that it's not that those jobs are disappearing from Oregon because those jobs are not necessary. They're being courted to go elsewhere. And so while we have seen a reduction, I will say that since 2020, not that I'm wanting to be in Arizona in any way here, but just to give you a snapshot, Arizona has had $205 billion in investments from the semiconductor advanced manufacturing since 2020. And so those jobs that, are being courted away from Oregon, and I think as we heard from our students are in these STEM fields, they want to work here. They want to stay here in Oregon. But if the jobs are not going to be here, if we're not looking at again, retaining, modestly growing, and attracting, those students will go elsewhere. for that work. And so it's very important that as we're talking about that the shift is taking that to other states.
Thank you. Great, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Senator, we appreciate it. Senator Pham, and for Senator Golden, Sarah Sento. And just, again, for everybody who wasn't here when we started, we have about 45 minutes for this public hearing. We're going to try to limit people to 2 minutes, and then we're going to do our second bill. So, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Chair Broadman and Vice Chair McLean, members of the committee. My name is Sarah Satimo, and I'm Chief of Staff for Senator Golden. Senator Golden is in the Rules Committee and can't be here with you today, but asked that I come to request your consideration of the recently posted -8 amendment for SB 1586. The purpose of this amendment is to add data centers and cryptocurrency mining operations to the category of business activities that are not eligible for enterprise zone designation or other taxpayer subsidized advantages. The senator believes that evidence from across the country is clear that the staggering level of resource consumption of these particular enterprises is exacerbating problems that far outweigh their meager job creation and economic development benefits. It's become clear to him that public subsidies of these enterprises are turning out to be a very bad deal for the taxpayers who ultimately supply them. He hopes that we can focus on Oregon's economic development strategies in other directions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Can I get a point of clarification?
Please.
Thank you, Senator Rob. I just want to make sure thank you for being here, Sarah. Kyle or somebody, I thought that the data centers and et cetera, I thought that was already taken out of the measure.
The enterprise zones.
Enterprise zones.
Senator Taylor, and I'll admit, this amendment got posted late last night, so I haven't had a chance to look at it, but I think this is speaking to the enterprise zones itself, where the enterprise zone language was pulled out in the amendments previously, the extension of the enterprise zone.
I see. Well, maybe maybe Senator Solomon can give some clarification afterwards or something. I just want to make sure we're all talking, because that's news to me. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Senator, welcome.
Thank you. Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Con Pham, and I'm honored to represent Northeast and Southeast Portland, Senate District 23. First of all, I want to thank Senator Solomon for bringing forward this bill. I think it has highlighted the urgent need for a comprehensive statewide economic development strategy, and I think we should be asking big questions and putting forth bold proposals for how we move beyond modest growth and stagnation and position Oregon for long-term prosperity. Unfortunately, I can't support this bill because I don't think this is the right step forward towards a comprehensive economic development strategy for the whole state and for the Portland region. And I think we need to take a stronger stance in making sure that we are stopping, to the senator's point, stopping data centers from accessing our state's most generous corporate tax breaks. Many folks have talked about the land use portion of the bill, and I do have concerns about moving those 1,700 or 1,400 acres of farmland into industrial use or urban reserves. And while Senate Bill 1586 does prohibit standalone data centers in the rezoned acreage, it continues to allow auxiliary data centers. But for my testimony today, I want to focus more on the economic development and the tax credit portions of the bill. First, I support the -8 amendment introduced by Senator Golden, which explicitly excludes data centers and cryptocurrency mining operations from taking advantage of critical tax break programs. The Oregonian recently reported that Oregon is giving away nearly $500 million or $500 million this year in property tax abatements to data centers through 3 tax incentive programs. And I think we need to be honest about our recent experience about who these tax breaks benefit and how many and what kinds of jobs are created. The Oregonian reports that in Hillsborough, land that might otherwise have been used for electronics manufacturing, factories that can employ hundreds or even thousands now host giant server farms that typically employ just a handful of people, unquote. A TikTok data center is saving $5.6 million this year while employing just 11 local workers. That's more than $500,000 in tax breaks per job. The -8 amendment would close that loophole, generating hundreds of millions of dollars for state and local coffers at a time of tremendous need. Secondly, I want to underline that we need to have a comprehensive understanding of all the available industrial sites across the region before we open up 1,700 acres. And we have to think about the regional impacts when we privilege one region above another. In my own district, we have several other large properties like the Gateway Shopping Center, where several big box stores have shut down and are currently sitting empty. Gateway Shopping Center and surrounding parcels have 30 plus acres of developable land and has all the infrastructure that a commercial entity would need. It sits at the intersection between the 205 freeway and the 84 freeway and the Gateway Transit Center, which has multiple MAX lines and bus lines running to it and is close to the Portland Airport for easier shipping. This is where we could host a job-rich industry that spreads economic benefits across the region. And I think that's important as we think about industrial development and planning, that we think about the impacts for the entire region. And I worry that if we overinvest in one area with these 1,700 acres, that districts like mine in East Portland and places like Gateway Shopping Center won't get the industrial development that they also need. And lastly, I want to talk about what kinds of businesses we want to be prioritizing and privileging through our tax credits. The research on efficacy of tax credits is mixed at best. And while, yes, they can be useful in attracting some businesses, it depends on the kinds of businesses, like data centers that sometimes don't provide long-term employment with real career pathways. But moreover, it's also about when we attract multinational or out-of-state companies, they often don't have roots in our state and thus are able to move to other states once those tax subsidies are over that offer better tax breaks in the future. And so it's a constant race to see who can cut taxes more and sweeten the pot. In contrast, we have many great businesses here locally that are innovative and deeply rooted in Oregon. These are the businesses that recirculate our dollars. They don't just send money overseas to their attorneys or management in other out of state. More than 24 studies over the past decade have shown that locally owned businesses generate 2 to 4 times the multiplier effects of out-of-state or absentee-owned businesses. If we're considering $100 million in additional tax credits at a time when we are cutting schools, healthcare, and housing, we should invest those dollars in Oregon-based businesses that truly create long-term employment and recirculate money in our economy. So in conclusion, durable economic development is really locally rooted, workforce-centered, and fiscally responsible. And without stronger guardrails tying subsidies to job density, wages, and long-term community return, I remain concerned about Senate Bill 1586 as written and support the -8 amendment.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you, Chair Broadman. I would like to apologize, Sarah. I just looked at the amendment now, so I wasn't sure what you were referencing, so I was a little bit confused, so I apologize for that. So Senator Golden is supporting the measure if the -8 amendment was adopted, or?
So he'll be Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, members of the committee, Senator Taylor, he will be reviewing amendments, but up to this point has not been supportive of the bill.
Okay, and then Senator Pham, you support the -8 amendment, but you don't, but if that was adopted to the bill, you would be opposed to the bill? You'd be
I think I
supportive
would.
of the bill.
I think I would still have concerns about the bill.
Okay, all right, okay, thank you.
Senator.
I'm trying to call up the -8. Maybe it's a question for Sarah, does the prohibition on data center operations in enterprise zones apply if his -8 was adopted? Would that apply to enterprise zones east of the Cascade Mountains?
Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, thank you for the question. My understanding is that it is in all enterprise zones, but I will follow up with the senator and Senator Pham knows better than I do.
My understanding of the bill is that it grandfathers existing enterprise zone programs, but looks to future enterprise zone tax breaks.
All right, then, follow-up is, the data center industry in Crook County specifically, which I know better than the other ones, but the industry is not as bleak as I think what maybe other people have experienced. I know 500-600 jobs in Prineville are a lot of jobs, and they pay twice the median wage on average. So those are some pretty good jobs. and a town that, suffered pretty badly under the timber wars and, so there are some places I would suggest east of the mountains where data centers are big employers with good jobs. And then second of all, I'm, as far as the Senator Pham is, the gateway area, does that currently require dismantling what's there? And second of all, is it open for business now? Do people have a choice to come now?
Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, the Gateway Transit Center would require some demolishing of buildings, but it is empty, mostly empty. It's we just used to have some big box stores. Even the Fred Meyer was the last remaining big box store, and it just recently closed. And there's shopping centers across my district as consumer patterns have changed. Increasingly, people just don't come to big shopping centers anymore. And I think we need to have a plan for how we're going to be using that land in the future.
Thank you both for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, I'm going to call up Rocky Dallum, Ariel Nelson, and Duke Shepard. We are gonna be on 2 minutes per person here, and then following that, we'll have Mark D'Arienzo, William Lehman, and Alexandra Ring. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members. My name is Duke Shepard. I'm with Oregon Business and Industry. I was specifically invited up here to explain amendment language in the -7s. Both the specific language and the intent with regard to advanced manufacturing and the further detail in the proposed optional capital equipment investment for local governments. Advanced manufacturing is defined for providing greater specificity in terms of both target and applicability than is currently in Oregon statute. I will note that in terms of precise definitions, Senate Bill 4 from 2023, the Oregon CHIPS Act, names semiconductors and advanced manufacturing 8 times in that bill without any further definition. So at that time, people didn't seem to be confused about what advanced manufacturing or semiconductors actually were. However, to provide maximum clarity, today's -7 puts word for word the definition put forth in the 2011 report to the President on ensuring American leadership in advanced manufacturing, produced by the President's Council of Scientific Advisors in the Obama administration, later placed into federal statute, with the exception of some additional further clarifying language around life sciences that Mr. Dallum can cover. The amendment also lists clear exclusions to provide maximum precision. It excludes routine assembly, packaging, warehousing, distribution, basic fabrication that doesn't materially transform a product, maintenance and repair work, administrative, sales, or marketing functions, and further reinforces that the clear purpose of the limitation here that manufacturing is the product of material tangible goods as it is commonly understood and defined in every dictionary. Placed in it, the machinery and the incentive portion for the property tax, the optional property tax abatement must be placed in service. It cannot be warehoused. It must be acquired or leased no more than 2 years before being placed in service. It must be placed in service on or after January 1 of this year and not have been previously taxed in Oregon. This is net new machinery to be invested. The application process mirrors that for the statewide mandatory food processor exemption, but again, this proposed incentive for capital equipment is optional. Finally, I will just say, I live in the Gateway area. On a side note, if any of you all would like to have a hearing about that, it would be fantastic, but it's sort of mixing and matching with this subject matter.
Thank you.
Chair Broadman, members of the committee, Rocky Dallum here on behalf of the Oregon Life Sciences Association. Just briefly want to cover some of the mechanisms and changes in the -7 as it relates to the R&D tax credit. You've already heard about the ability of an R&D credit to be a force multiplier for capital to be redeployed through university partnerships, small companies, et cetera. In the base bill and the -7, the R&D mechanism is mirroring the semiconductor requirements, the eligibility, the limits, but there are a few pieces that we added based on questions and just to provide clarity. Number one, we wanted to make sure that the sections in the bill were clear that the semiconductor tax credit is only still available to the companies that it was in that circumstance. And then the other portion of the credit that's being added is for other advanced manufacturing and life sciences companies, as in the definitions of the credit. So to ensure that it's not either bleeding and watering down an existing credit or creating double eligibility. And then I believe Senator Taylor had some questions about caps and costs. Instead of mirroring the semiconductor caps, we've created a $50 million cap per each this biennium, next biennium, and the following biennium, which effectively serves as a sunset because, like the semiconductor credit, it's only authorized for this biennium, the 27 biennium, and then the 29 through 31 biennium. So happy to answer any questions about the mechanism. We hope you'll support the R&D credit that 37 states have something similar to help retain and grow and attract business here.
On that, Rocky, on that, so the cap, the biennial cap is 50 now in the amendment that's posted, correct?
Yeah, Chair Broadman, the semiconductor cap remains with the escalating, I believe it's 50, 80, 90. For this credit, we just changed it to a clean 50, 50, 50, so it was easy to communicate and we're clear that they were separate caps for semiconductor versus this credit.
Clarification.
Please.
Would people be able to apply to both, Kyle? Would a company be able to get both? Would they be able to apply for the semiconductor and this one?
Senator Taylor, there is limitation on claiming the credit for both. For applying for certification, that would be different, where there could be opportunity to, I suppose, attempt certification for both, but you couldn't claim the credit for both.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, and members of the committee. For the record, Ariel Nelson here on behalf of the City of Hillsborough. Also here to confirm what we have in the -7 amendments as it relates to the land sections of the bill, sections 20 through 22. As we described last time, where the -7 in these sections is clarifying how we're describing the maps that bring in 373 acres into the urban growth boundary, with the remaining roughly 1,400 acres going into being designated as urban reserves. So making sure those are being accurately described for those future processes. It also clarifies the role of our partners at Washington County and their role in planning at the local level as that land comes in. And I'm also happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Thank you all for being here, appreciate it. Mark D'Arienzo, William Lehman, and Alexandra Ring.
Good morning. Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, members of the committee. For the record, Nicole Stang here in place of Alexandra Ring and on behalf of the League of Oregon Cities and our 241 member cities. LOC is your partner and cities are your partner in creating economic vitality across the state, and we see the Jobs Act as an important opportunity to do so. Despite limited resources, cities have been investing in economic development through property tax incentives like e-zones. We're excited to see additional mechanisms created in this bill, particularly the capital equipment property tax relief. In addition, and more so, we're excited to see the state come to the table with economic development incentives. In particular, the research and development tax credit included in the Job Act is a meaningful way for the state to be a partner for cities in economic development. This investment will signal to key industries, Oregon communities are ready for you to welcome them. As the state and local revenues are constrained, it's important to consider what the Jobs Act will mean in terms of state revenue. Economic analysis on the record indicates the Jobs Act could bring billions to the state's general fund in the next biennia and millions more in biennia to come. Without action, Oregon may fall behind our neighbor states. We may lose businesses and residents. LOC knows the Jobs Act will impact all parts of our state, not just in future realized revenue, but in direct impact to industries, as you saw last week in the presentation from Ariel Nelson. LOC and our members know that economic success is important to our state's success. It's paramount to our state's success. We thank Senator Solman and the City of Hillsborough for their work on this bill. The local act offers Oregon an opportunity to advance economic prosperity in partnership with local governments. We urge an aye vote, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it. Mark D'Arienzo or William Lehman? Zava Rosenbaum, Marcia Kelly, and Myrna Munoz.
Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, members of the committee, Marcia Kelly for the Oregon Women's Rights Coalition. I guess the third time's the charm. I've been signed up since the first bill. We have various concerns about this bill. You will find in testimony a compilation of the tax expenditures for corporations, both income tax and property tax, as evidence that we already are very generous with corporations. We're very concerned about the expansion of the research and development, and I did not understand that there was a limit in the 2729 in the -7, according to what I think I saw was put in evidence by LRO. It didn't say there was 50, and then after 2029, there's no limit. So I've been under the weather, so excuse me for that sort of a problem. We already have in the strategic investment program this biennium $654 million in tax credits in property tax. It's spread across the state, but that is significant when you think about property tax funding public schools. That's a third. A third of that is normally what would fund public schools. The sky, apparently, to Portland is falling. I think it's probably getting a little bit gray. We're in a slowdown in much of the country, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, Texas. I posted an article about what they said on January 26th. Basically, there was zero job growth pretty much in the United States from the April Liberation Day declaration by President Trump. Please look at the things that I posted, and I'll expand on what I have. Sorry, I'm very much under the weather.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
For the third time.
Myrna Munoz?
Yes, Myrna Munoz.
Welcome.
Good morning, Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, and members of the committee. My name is Myrna Munoz, and I'm a bilingual educator of over 25 years, proud resident of Forest Grove and Senate District 15, a Mexican-American mother of two with a lifetime of participatory citizenship. I vote regularly since I excitedly registered at 18, keep myself informed, and connect with my representatives regularly. I'm an Oregonian who opposes SB 1586 for 3 reasons. I'll probably be able to give you 2 today. Our community most affected by these ideas was not consulted. These data centers have extensive research that identifies them as a problem in any community they enter, and we need the tax revenue from this land to keep our health and future safe. First, I'm concerned about the democratic principles under which the ideas and protocols outlined in this bill were gathered and decided on. It seems that we forgot to include loops for feedback from the community. When I learned about this bill and its avenues for bringing data centers to our region, I was alarmed. I couldn't believe I had missed engagement processes for this because I know my community feels like me. We don't want the danger of data centers around us. How could this happen? In the last week, it's become clear to me that community voice was not a priority for the folks moving this bill forward. It's inappropriate to follow the federal government's lead with regard to democracy. Who makes the decisions in our community? Second, I'm worried about the effects of data centers on our local water and electricity supplies. The Oregonian interviewed local researchers around the electricity demands of these centers, calling it the 9 gigawatt problem and explaining that this has the potential to end electricity access as we know it within 5 years. Being a member of a minoritized ethnic group, this has me on edge. The effect of things like this usually fall on my community, and I'm not sure we can have any more impacts on our ignored community right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator.
If I could, thank you, Co-Chair. Ms. Muniz, I hear your opposition to 1586. Could you just take a second, and do you have suggestions then for economic growth in this area? If not this, what?
My suggestion is that we engage the local people to find out what it is that we need and can move forward with together. I think the strong opposition we're seeing is in regards to non-representative democracy. Everybody wasn't called to the table, and we all have suggestions and opinions about how to develop this area. Thank you for the question, Senator.
Great, thank you both so much, appreciate it. I called Ziva Rosenbaum and didn't see, I'm going to call Steve Chrisman, who I believe is online, Anna Maria Ponzi, and Sarah Yeoman.
Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Steve Chrisman. I'm the Economic Development and Airport Director for the City of Pendleton. I'm here testifying today on behalf of the city in support of 1586. The city's primary interest is in changes to the RSIS language, the regionally significant industrial site language, and the way that qualifying jobs are calculated. Right now, the minimum for rural Oregon is 25 jobs. The city's invested over $18 million, actually over $30 million, but over 18 million of it is invested into a project that is qualified for the RSIS program. It's been a boon for the city. We've just in last year alone attracted 33. Well, the city's built, whether you're aware or not, what's believed to be the busiest UAS test range in the United States. And last year alone, we attracted 33 unmanned vehicle companies, both defense contractors and commercial companies into the state. And it's been our experience, there's probably 75 to 150 jobs at all times operating out here, but only one of those companies currently qualifies, unfortunately. So the numbers are in smaller numbers than we are able to reach. And we've encouraged the companies to increase their footprint here, but we're more in the 10 to 15 range. And so we'd like to see that number, that calculation minimum brought down. The city is really in the midst of a incredible economic development opportunity. I hope it isn't lost on anyone, the fact that the state's desperate for economic development growth, and we happen to be in the midst of an incredible opportunity here. And the only path to advanced manufacturing is through research, development, test, and evaluation, which is what we specialize in. So we would, the city would respectfully request that you support 1586.
Thank you so much. Ms. Ponzi.
Good morning, Chair Boardman, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Anna Maria Ponzi. I'm co-founder, past president of one of Oregon's founding wineries. I was raised in Hillsborough, and I helped to establish our state's world-renowned wine industry, which currently contributes more than $8 billion to the state, providing 40,000 jobs and $1.7 billion in wages. It's also a key driver of Oregon's tourism, hospitality sectors. I also am the daughter of the founders of the nation's craft brewing industry, which began here in Oregon. I know firsthand what can result when we build upon our local agriculture. I've been listening to the past 2 days of testimony, and we've heard from environmentalists, geologists, farmers who work the land, and we've also heard from those mainly outside of our region who choose to ignore our natural resource. What we've heard is that Oregonians have repeatedly responded that they oppose data centers on farmland. We know Hillsborough is already holding hundreds of acres for data centers, and current tech companies are reducing labor. We know semiconductors seize our natural resources, drive up our energy bills, and we certainly know that data centers can be constructed most any place. Simultaneously, we also know that the land in question is some of the rarest and most fertile on Earth, based on its unique location. We know finding rich farmland in a moderate climate is hard to find and will become increasingly hard. We know the promise of high-tech jobs is elusive and it's short-term. We also know that ag is sustainable and provides generational growth. far more than high-tech jobs. Oregon is a place of natural beauty, rich resources. I feel we have a responsibility to protect it. And instead of offering tax credits, incentives to this latest gold rush to permanently pave over our idyllic place, I'd encourage a more progressive approach. Imagine what would happen if we could offer the same similar tax credits, incentives to our hardworking local farmers and actually keep Century Farms here. Ag is business. Ag is generational, and I urge the committee to oppose HB 1586 and any amendment, and instead build a holistic, long-term economic strategy that preserves and builds upon the intrinsic nature of what is so distinctive about this very place we call home. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Powers, Mark Wilcuts, and I'll call Sarah Yeoman again.
This is Sarah Yeoman.
Hi, Sarah. Why don't you start?
Great. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Sarah Yeoman. I live in Hillsborough, about half a mile away from the open farmland being discussed in SB 1586. My husband is a commercial construction electrician, and we moved to Hillsborough for the construction industry. But we are opposed to this bill because we know the effects of runaway industry on quality of life. We are originally from a state that is regularly ranked as the top in the nation for economic opportunity because of its tech industry and business friendliness. It was not a pleasant place to live. Low wages, lack of government transparency, and rampant environmental degradation are just some of the reasons we left, and we came to Oregon, and we chose to stay in Oregon because of the immediate improvement on our quality of life, and that includes Oregon's intentional preservation of farmland. My husband helped build Mod 3, Intel's crown jewel, but last year Intel laid off 3,000 people from its Aloha and Hillsborough campuses. That's just under 2% of that area's population. Those people are unemployed not because of lack of land, but because of bad business decisions. So it makes no sense to tell my farming neighbors that their livelihoods do not matter, that their businesses do not matter, in favor of a race to the bottom through massive tax giveaways for corporations that will permanently pave over our resource lands and have the power to devastate working families when they decide that shareholder value and CEO bonus pay is more important than community longevity. Everyone wants to improve Oregon's economy, but we are in an era where corporate accountability, both environmentally and financially, is virtually non-existent. We need leaders who think innovatively and creatively about fostering businesses that want to invest in Oregon because of our high standards and values. And many of those businesses already exist in agriculture and other diverse industries. We do not need leaders who are ready to lower the bar in the name of competitiveness. Idaho, North Carolina, Texas, Arizona, they all have abysmal environmental laws and are right-to-work states with low wages and loose labor laws. Their bar is on the floor, and I don't want to go back to living like that. We don't need leaders who are lulled by the siren song of tech moguls who chant that gobbling up land for advanced manufacturing is the only economy of the future, because it is not. I oppose SB 1586, and I urge you to do the same. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Welcome.
Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, members of the committee, for the record, my name is Mike Powers. I represent our union, SEIU Local 503. I'm here today to express our concerns with Senate Bill 1586. Concerningly, we don't believe anyone has had enough time to fully consider the impact of the bill and the amendments, especially Dash 7 and Dash 8. We share the goal of creating good-paying jobs and strengthening Oregon's economy. That's core to what we do. In our understanding, this bill will double tax subsidies available for semiconductor companies and advanced manufacturing, while also removing the cap for the largest corporations. It appears to do this without strengthening sideboards and accountability for job creation and investment in local communities. In 2023, the legislature passed Senate Bill 4, which set aside $200 million to invest in Oregon's semiconductor industry. The single largest investment from the bill was $115 million to a large Washington County employer that subsequently turned around and eliminated 3,100 jobs over the past 3 years. Yet those losses have not been offset. More recently, this committee worked on SB 1507 to protect the stability of our state revenues. In 1507, the legislature acknowledged the importance of safeguarding Oregon's tax base and ensuring we are not undermining our ability to fund core priorities. I have more detail that I can share in testimony. Note that the bill extends the program sunset to 2036, setting credit certification limits over many years. in summary, the bill could cost anywhere from $1 billion to over $2 billion over a 10-year period. The thing is, we just don't know. For these reasons, the bill is not ready, and we urge your no vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, so I only have a few other people who are signed up to testify in person. So we're going to get to 1524, just for heads up for folks who are here for that. But I want to make sure if people traveled here, we get them in today. Jordan Bice, do you need to testify? Jim Gilbert, Garrett Rosenthal. Not seeing them. John Olson, welcome.
Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, members of the committee. For the record, my name is John Olson. I'm the president and CEO of the McMinnville Area Chamber of Commerce. We represent over 450 businesses and 25,000 employees in Yamhill County, including manufacturers, agricultural producers, technology firms, retailers, and small family-owned companies. I'm here today in strong support of SB 1586. From the perspective of the communities we serve, SB 1586 is about competitiveness, certainty, and long-term revenue growth. Oregon is competing every day for advanced manufacturing, semiconductor investment, and industrial development. The states we compete against are not standing still. They're actively modernizing tax structures and strengthening tools to attract capital investment. If Oregon chooses not to remain competitive, investment will not disappear. It will simply go elsewhere. SB 1586 strengthens performance-based tools such as enterprise zones, regionally significant industrial site programs, and these incentives are not automatic. They require real capital investment, real job creation, and measurable economic impact. No investment means no benefit. In McMinnville, we see firsthand how capital investment strengthens our local economy. When a manufacturer expands, it supports supply chains, increases payroll, and grows long-term property tax revenue. While abatements may be temporary, the improved property value and economic activity is lasting. Equally important, SB 1586 improves transparency and predictability in permitting. Our members consistently identify regulatory certainty as one of the most important factors in deciding where to invest. Clear timelines and accountability reduce risk and increase confidence in Oregon as a place to grow. From a revenue perspective, this bill is about expanding the tax base over time. Encouraging investment today means a stronger long-term revenue for tomorrow. We would encourage your support of SB 1586. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's all. Those are the folks I have signed up to testify in person. If you did not, if I did not call you, can you just, what, are you here to testify in person? Please come on up. And if anybody's here who traveled to testify in person and I have not called your name and you signed up, can you please let the committee staff know? We'll try to fit you in. Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning. Chair Broadman, Vice Chair McLean, and members of the committee, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. For the record, my name is Jim Lund, and I'm the president and owner of Saxony Thermal and a board member of the Oregon DEC. For the past 15 years, my company has been designing and building equipment for and products used by leading semiconductor manufacturers around the world, and I'm happy to express our support for SB 1586. The semiconductor industry is inherently cyclical. We are currently in a quieter phase of that cycle. Saxony Thermal is using this time strategically to position the company for growth and expansion ahead of the next upswing. In preparation for that coming demand, we have plans to build a new facility in Hillsboro that would vertically integrate several processes we currently source outside of Oregon. I want to be clear about the nature of this project. We do not have the intention of building a data center. This facility would be an advanced manufacturing and operations site that generates high-paying, long-term jobs. These are durable positions that support Oregon workers over time while bringing new revenue into the state. Historically, our revenue has been 30% from Oregon, 50% from U.S. domestic customers, and the balance from international markets. Our strategy is to continue expanding our customer base in Europe and Asia, an opportunity we are actively and progressively pursuing. Importantly, Saxony Thermal has been and continues to be intentional about reinvesting in our local economy. Typically, 70 to 80% of our local spending is with Oregon-based companies, and this expansion would further increase our engagement with local suppliers, service providers, and Oregon design, engineering, and construction trades. This planned new facility would allow us to increase staffing levels, doubling in size over the next year and tripling the following. The expansion would include many high-skilled, high-paying technical positions for R&D and manufacturing that align directly with the goals of SB 1586. We know the workforce is here. We've been hiring from it over the history of our company. Access to this program would allow us to accelerate our plans and confidently pursue customers outside of Oregon. The recovery is coming. To be ready, we must be building now. For these reasons, we strongly support Senate Bill SB 56.
Great, thank you so much. Again, if you traveled to testify on 1586 and you signed up and I did not call your name, please let the committee staff know. With that, we're going to close the public hearing on Senate Bill 1586, open a public hearing on Senate Bill 1524, and I will welcome